But we begin with the first week of testimony in Donald Trump's New York City criminal case. More witnesses took the stand Friday, including Trump's former executive assistant of more than 30 years, who prosecutors will rely on to verify the authenticity of documents involved in the case. A banker involved in Michael Cohen's payment to Stormy Daniels was also called. CBS News' Bradley Blackburn has more from court.
Former President Donald Trump returned to court Friday afternoon after defense attorneys finished cross-examining former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker. Trump's lawyer tried to cast doubt on Pecker's credibility, questioning his memory and trying to make him seem inconsistent. During his days-long testimony, Pecker explained how he and Trump's former lawyer, Michael Cohen, worked together to catch and kill negative stories about Trump during his 2016 presidential campaign. Trump denies any wrongdoing.
It's a rigged trial. Terrible.
Trump faces 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. Prosecutors allege he funneled so-called hush money payments through Michael Cohen to adult film star Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election.
I personally think they've got an uphill battle. They would have the jurors believe that simply an agreement to influence the election with this catch and kill practice is in and of itself illegal, but it's not. They're going to have to go the extra step of proving that federal campaign finance law violation.
Trump's former executive assistant, Rona Graff, was the next witness to take the stand. During his testimony, Pecker said he saw Graff handing invoices to Trump, which he'd review and sign. Earlier, the former president shared other complaints about the proceedings.
It's very cold in there on purpose, I believe.
And he expressed frustration that the trial is keeping him from celebrating his wife Melania's birthday. Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
And CBS News correspondent Errol Barnett joins me now from outside the courthouse in downtown Manhattan. Errol, can you tell me a little bit about the two witnesses called Friday?
Hey there, Michael. You know, this is significant. Donald Trump, a former president, is not in control in that courtroom behind me. He is a criminal defendant. And so this week, the jury watched as two witnesses were called after David Pecker. Rona Graff, a trusted associate of Donald Trump. She was his former executive assistant and moved her way up at the Trump organization. And just before the proceedings adjourned for the weekend, they heard from Gary Farrow, who's best described as a type of custodian of records for Michael Cohen, who will be a star witness of this trial. CBS News reporter and attorney Katrina Kaufman was inside the courthouse as well this week, watching everything unfold, and helped me understand the prosecution's strategy of really starting this trial with David Pecker, who says he's still a friend of Donald Trump, and ending with people who are much lesser known.
I feel like they started this trial with the big picture. David Pecker is a crucial witness. He was intimately involved in the planning of this alleged catch and kill scheme. And he's also a very credible witness who's very fond of Donald Trump. He made that clear. He was asked if he harbored any resentment for him, and he said it was quite the opposite. In fact, as you said, he considers him a friend. And so I feel like they laid the foundation that they had all of these interactions, that Trump really knew about everything that was going on. And then regarding the Stormy Daniels payment, he described a number of conversations between himself and Michael Cohen, because they were supposed to pay Stormy Daniels. It wasn't happening, and they wanted David Pecker to assume that payment. And he had already done payments for a former Trump doorman and Karen McDougal, a former Playboy model. And he told them, I'm not a bank, and he encouraged Michael Cohen to make that payment. And the last witness we heard today was Michael Cohen's banker, who we were starting to learn set up these LLCs that one was initially going to be used to pay back Karen McDougal. That never happened. But the other is where the Stormy Daniels payment came from. So that's all to say that they really started with big picture testimony with David Pecker. And now we're getting these other witnesses. Rona Graff, Trump's former assistant, who was very close to him and said she didn't actually want to be there. But she also confirmed important things, which is that she had entered contacts for Trump for Karen McDougal with her address, her email, her phone number, and then one that just said simply Stormy, and it had Stormy's phone number. So they're really laying the groundwork now with all of these details and people who are not hostile witnesses to Trump.
And with 34 felony counts, all the defense needs to do is poke holes in the credibility of witnesses. Did they achieve that briefly?
They really did try to poke holes in David Pecker's testimony. I do think ultimately the prosecution was able to counter a lot of that. But as you said, all that the defense needs in the long run is one holdout juror that they have to convince that this is not beyond a reasonable doubt.
That's right. And Michael, the final thing on the agenda really as far as next week from Judge Juan Merchan is he will have a hearing on the gag order violations the prosecution says Donald Trump has made during the trial, including 4 from this week. That hearing is scheduled for Thursday. So the jury really heading into the weekend to digest what they've heard from the key witnesses this week.
All right, Errol, Barnett, Katrina, Kaufman, thanks.